Call the meeting of the Mount Vernon City School District Board of Education of April 23rd to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Trustee Patterson. Present. Trustee Miller.
Here.
Trustee Williams.
Here.
Trustee McOwen.
Here, present.
Trustee Ning. Trustee Jaros.
Here.
Trustee Saunders.
Here.
Trustee Torres.
Present.
Trustee White.
Present.
A quorum is present. There are no communications from the public this evening.
Not great.
Yes, Craig, like that.
This means a short meeting, that's all.
Not great. Always want to hear from the public.
Superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I don't have much to report tonight, but there is an issue I'd like to bring to your attention. I was updated today on some information regarding the Mandela project and correspondence that we received from the Department of Education regarding the project that I think you need to be brought up to date on. And I think that based on this information, we need to make sure that you are fully aware of what this new information entails so that you can be guided appropriately in terms of how you would like to direct administration to proceed with the Mandela project. So with that being said, I'm going to ask Kevin and Michael to share that information, and perhaps Mr. Silver, since he was the direct recipient of that information from NYSED. And then we have some, depending on your direction, a resolution that we will present to you tonight in that vein. So I guess, Mr. Silver, you can start by sharing the information we received from NYSED after our last meeting.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Our conversation that Dr. Hamilton, I, and Michael Policio had with the state on the day of the last board meeting made us feel pretty comfortable proceeding as we did and with giving you the information that we did. One day later, we received a written communication from the Associate Commissioner telling us that we could not, her words, fully award the contracts until the SMART bond had been approved in June. And so we didn't exactly know what that all meant. So we communicated with Ingram and Smith intensely on Wednesday and Thursday. Dr. Hamilton was involved, Dr. Gorman was involved, and we told everybody what the state was saying. We developed some plans, some thoughts about what it all meant, and then today we had two conversations with the Associate Commissioner, one with Antonia Hamlin on the phone with us, with the Commissioner, to try to get an understanding of what it all meant. Essentially, it meant that we would not be able to use the SMART bond money unless we held up the actual signing of the contracts until after the commission met and the SMART bond money of $3 million was approved. So that left...
If I can jump in right there, Mr. Silver, and one of the concerns that I have with that is that we need to execute this contract this week. The timetable, the expiration date by which we need to execute that contract is this Friday. And I have some reservations about making that kind of commitment when the state has not cemented in writing their confirmation that we could allocate the smart bond money as we initially intended and as they initially advised us when we spoke with you on, well, our last meeting. So, Mr. Silver, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So the Associate Commissioner pretty much guaranteed, without saying guarantee, that the smart bond money will be approved if we do what we're supposed to do. However, this involves dates. The date of the contract signing cannot be before the Commissioner approves the smart bond money, and we can't get past that. So where we are is that the smart bond money is not available, but all $7.9 million is available, and we have been promised that we will be first at the commission when it takes place in June with our smart bond proposal, which is now being rewritten with the cooperation of the top people at the State Education Department who manage smart bond. So then we tried to figure out, is this project still possible? So we have been assured that we have sufficient funds in the bond to cover all of this. We would have to use IT money, which is in the bond, and use it for Mandela, and then that IT money that we used from the bond would be replaced by the smart bond. So we would still be able to do the same amount of work. But the problem is the maximum cost allowance, the MCA, is what it is, and we would end up with $4 million not aided. So let me tell you what that means in terms of, so we would get somewhere around 70% of that, 72% of that, so somewhere around $2.8 million divided by 15 years, we would lose. So it's somewhere in the vicinity of $150,000, $180,000 a year for 15 years. Now let's say the other side of it. If you vote to scrap this project entirely, we have some $2 million into this project now, which would not be aided unless you do not get aid unless you complete a project. So the $2 million that we have in this project is gone unless we can figure out some sort of a small project, like a $10,000 or a $20,000 project, and then have $2 million attached to it to be aided. We don't know if this will fly, but it might fly. So the options are, if we scrap the project, we don't have aid on the $2 million, and we have a building that still has to be maintained until we can sell it or decide to do something else with it, and we have no place to put the kids, and we will then have to have trailers, but we will have the money for that, and we're not certain about the aidability of that. The other side is we would have to use $4 million from the bond, which is available, but it would not be aided. So we would lose something in the vicinity of $180,000 for 15 years. Kevin, did you want to add something to what I just said right now?
If we could just give Mr. Silver the new information, like we don't need to rehash what we've already gone through. Let's just give the board information that is new to us that they haven't already heard, and then present options.
So I just don't think there's any more information. We can either proceed or not proceed. Legal counsel has advised us against trying to use the smart bond money, but they understand and they have no, but legal counsel has no problem with our using the additional bond money as long as the board understands it's not aided. So the options. Kevin, you want to? Well, we really know what, I'm sorry, we really know what the options are. One option is to proceed using the money from the bond and transfer that money from the bond into the smart bond, so the smart bond would remain intact at $7.9 million for IT and wiring. The other option would be to go out to bid again. That would mean the aidability would be intact as long as we finish the project at some point. We could go out to bid in 6 months, 8 months, and but we have been assured that we will now lose the best contractors, and we consider this the GC awardee the best in the GC business. We would probably lose that, and we have been assured that the bids would come in higher, just because of time progressing. So that would save the aidability of the project. The SMART bond would then have been approved if we decided to continue the SMART bond to be partially funding. We could get the $3 million approved, and then we would have to go with our bids. Now, that would mean that we would surely be, now instead of September 20, we would be at September 21, or possibly January 22 for this project. Or we could scrap the project and start from scratch to try to figure out what to do.
And the reason I had asked for this information to be presented with you, I was not comfortable with awarding the bids this week without you having that information so that you could press go or have a difference of opinion based on that new information. Because ultimately we would be making a commitment to award this contract, knowing that there would be a portion of that funding source that is not, one, yet approved, or two, not aidable. And either scenario is fine. I just want you to have that information.
So, is that all the information?
Yes, sir.
So the bottom line is if we go forward with the non-aidable route, what's the total amount that we would, what's the cost difference between what we thought was happening last week and now?
It's the same.
It's the same cost difference. Last week,
No, I know, but because part of it is not aidable, that means net, it will cost the district more.
it'll cost the district $3 million more in unaidable money than when we said last week. Last week, we still had $1 million not aidable.
Correct.
So if you say that you were going to have that anyway,
It was 1 million and now it's 4.
Right.
if
Now
we
it's
go that
4.
route. So 3 million not aidable versus 3 million aidable is what cost difference?
yes. Yes, but remember.
That's not a yes or no question.
What is the cost difference? He said $180,000
Is
a
it
year over
right?
15 years.
$180,000 a year total over 15 years?
For 15 years. For
Every
each
year.
year.
Right, I know, but for 3 million,
Right.
that's
Versus about $50,000 or $45,000 for just $1 million.
Right.
So it's really, if it's 4 times what I said last week.
All I want is somebody to do that math, not me.
That's the math. Like $180,000 each year for 15 years.
Versus what?
Versus about 45 to 50, as you knew it last week.
Right, so it's 130, not 180,
Yes.
is the difference.
Yes.
So 130,000 times 15, that's what we're talking about? Who has a calculator? Somebody tell me what that number is, please. What is it?
1950,
2 million.
$2 million.
1,950,000.
So it's about 72% of the entire amount. Is
Of
what
the
we lose.
3 million.
Of 4 million. More, 72% of 3 million,
We got to
yes.
compare apples to apples. What did we know
It's about
last week?
$2.1 million.
Okay.
Comparing apples to apples. That would be the additional loss over 15 years.
So that's what we're talking about, the project would cost the district, it would cost the same, but the actual net cost to the district would go up by about $2 million over the 15 years. That's
Yes,
what you're
now if
saying.
we scrapped it, never did the project, we would have that same $2 million would not be aided.
Yeah, I know,
That we
I know.
spent on the project.
I know.
I'm sorry, can we go back for a second? You said it's gonna be, what's the cost? Because I thought I heard a range at first. You said a range at first, no? Like 130 to 150? Was there a range at first? or-
At first, I was using 75% a week ago, but it's really just a little bit less than 75%. So I'm saying 72%, 73% of the whole 4 million would be lost.
Okay,
And if you want to look at it as a net, it would be 72% of $3 million would be the additional cost, a total over
Versus
15 years.
Versus the facts that we understood last week.
so that's
Now-
really 2.8, let's just be, right?
Well, the difference is what Mike was
70
asking for.
Yeah, I just want to be clear that the total amount is 2.88.
Right. So we're saying like
Just
2.1 would be the difference for the $3 million.
Correct. But overall, for the project, it would be 2,880,000. As opposed to, what was it before?
It was like 50,000 a year for 15 years. That's 750,000.
Okay.
So, who has questions? I'm sorry.
I have a question. If we scrap this program, it will really affect us because now we'll have to put up trailers, modulars, or whatever they're called. And at that time, it was 73, when we put up Penningtons, it was $73,000 plus the installation fee and all that. So that will run us a nice chunk because we have to put up more than 2 that we were planning on. Then we still wouldn't have places for these kids to go from Lincoln, Hamilton, and Columbus. And then we still have this empty building that the state, I'm very aware, the state, unless we sell it, we can't build a building and have a building because the state won't approve it. Am I correct?
Yes.
But we'll have to do trailers anyway, right?
We're only doing 2. I mean, the plan was to do 2.
Yeah, the plan was, but now it doesn't seem that the project's going to be done in 2020, which means we're going to have to, we have the trailers anyway.
I'm sorry, why would did I miss something? Why would the project be delayed more?
If we proceed with what you agreed to last week,
Because we have to wait.
this project is possibly to be finished in September 20. We would only need 2 trailers as we're currently planning.
Oh, I thought you said
If the project is
2021.
scrapped, then we would need a bunch more trailers.
No, but I thought you said 2021.
If we delay it and wait for the smart bond to
Okay.
come in.
Right.
Okay.
If the smart
Right.
bond comes in, the 7.8 million, and we probably won't get that, Joe, correct me, until about June, since we've been waiting about 6
The
years.
approval, we're expecting the approval in June, but remember, $3 million from the smart bond would be done. So if we did delay it to wait for that, we would be delaying the project until September of '21.
So, but
At
we're
least.
waiting for an
Use-
approval, it hasn't been approved.
No, I'm not, but we use the bond money, and we have to pay the non-aidable, money. We can start the project on time to finish on time.
Yes.
Didn't
Can you just remind-
Wait,
so-
didn't you just
sorry, I
say
didn't-
that the IT money, was that approved or not approved?
No
The
smart,
bond
The
hasn't
smart
been
bond has not been approved at all. What I was saying before is that there is $2 million in the bond, which is not yet allocated, which could be, I'm sorry? Almost $3 million in the bond that could be allocated towards Mandela. Those projects would then move into the smart bond and be used from the smart bond if we use the IT money from the regular bond.
Can you just remind me why the smart bond has been not approved for 6 years? Why?
The
I know you're not the state, but what is
Okay.
No, but I'm
what is the
okay.
ostensible reason?
The state
No.
continued to change the rules along the way. We did submit a proposal, which was never approved. The state changed the forms, changed the plans, and changed the requirements, and we were never able to get approval in all of this time. Joe?
Use the mic,
Take the mic,
please.
please.
Good evening, everyone. So subsequent to our submittal, the state retroactively changed the rules. And when they changed the rules, they said to us, now you need to share with some of the non-publics. That amount is roughly $200,000. That's not the issue. We said, absolutely, tell us how to do that. They, to date, have not come out with how to do that. So it's held up basically in bureaucracy while they wait to tell school districts how to adhere to the new rules. So that's why the delay has been. It's just the New York State bureaucracy.
right.
So you have just given me zero confidence that this will actually happen in June.
I have, June is a soonest. It could potentially go past that.
So we have no guarantee when it will be approved.
There is no guarantee.
I
they will
understand
meet.
that. Okay.
But the state did agree to split the portion of the smart bond that would be used for Mandela from the balance of the smart bond and work on our approval first.
I know, but there's no guarantee we're going to get it in June.
The verbal
No,
guarantee.
we don't, this money has to be spent to get.
I know, but there's no guarantee we're going to get the smart bond approved anytime soon. It could be another year.
Well,
Well, so my question is, what is the total budget? So we were at like 26 million, and then 27
In the
million
first round?
last year, and then you said we're going to come in at 18, and then we came in at 23, and now we're going to be out another 2 million, so we're really back up to 25 million. So I'm confused, but
It's 22 million is the project.
22 plus the 2 million we're going to be out for the non-aidable?
It's 22 million is the project. The funding source is not related to the cost.
22 million, so it's
22
not
million is the
23,
project.
it's now it's 22.
It's 22, it was,
It's
yes.
how much of the 22 does the district actually pay? It was going to be a lot less,
No, I
and
know,
now
I
it's
know.
2 million more of it.
Okay. I will reiterate what I said last week, I think it was last week, and that I don't believe in making a commitment to money that we don't have, and I think this project has been fought from the very beginning.
So what's our ask tonight of the board, Mr. Silver?
So what we were asking the board is to either scrap the project entirely and move on, or to delay the project, go out to bid again a third time, which will have ramifications in terms of rebidding and who we might get and the cost of the bidding, or approve continuing the project as is, understanding that we lose aid on $4 million. And we are prepared to act however you guide us tonight.
And the net between the money already spent that is unaidable and the portion of the project, the additional portion of the project that is unaidable, what's the net difference, or is there a net difference?
So there would be $2 million if we did not proceed with the project, would be not aidable unless we did something. And the difference, and it would be $3 million additional unaided from what you knew last week. So the net is $1 million difference unless we did something with Mandela later on.
Okay. So is there a resolution prepared to that effect?
We have resolutions prepared. We need some guidance as to how the board would like to proceed.
Just to bring clarity to your question, Mike and Darcy, a little bit, we are in contact verbally with the person that is directly oversees the smart bond money. She is the one that approves it. She said to us on the phone that 90% of her job is 90%, and it goes to the committee, and then they wouldn't send their next approver something that wouldn't be approved. And at least, I mean, I've never spoken to her, but as of today, I felt like that money would be approved in June, but of course I can't speak to actually what happens. But there did seem a different sense that the money would be there, which is one of your questions. But again, I don't work there, so I don't know per se. But we were talking to the top of the top there.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a contrarian, but the fact of the matter that they've held it for X amount of years and now suddenly they're like, no, we're really serious now, doesn't really encourage. No, I appreciate it, but it gives me pause because I don't feel like there's no guarantee that that money's going to be there. And if we were struggling with $1 million non-aided before, $4 million is, I mean, $3 million extra dollars is a lot of money. And it's a lot to ask taxpayers to carry for 150 to 130 to 150 a year? Is that what the
180 to 180.
180?
But there's something we haven't talked about, and Darcy, you raised that question. If the smart bond doesn't happen, and we decide to go out to bid again, we're in just as bad or worse condition if the bids come in higher and we don't have the smart bond.
Well,
But-
and that would tell us that maybe this project has been doomed from the beginning.
Well, but we do believe, based on our,
I know we have to do something, but I'm saying,
I mean, based on our conversations today with Dr. Gorman, myself, Mr. Puccio, and Kevin, we believe that their intent is to approve this. They've already tentatively said that it is approvable, what we've submitted to them for $3 million.
I think we should operate under the premise that the approval of the smart bond project would be gravy. But if we're going to proceed with the project, we should proceed under the premise that we're operating with this additional cost that could potentially be unaidable.
Yes.
I agree. I think that's right.
President White?
With that being said, do we have a tab to present that modifies the resolution from, was that just last week? Last week?
Yes.
About,
2 weeks. Hasn't it?
No, that was last week.
costs being
No, it was last.
unaidable?
The resolution from last week, sir, only spoke to the total cost. There is nothing in the
Yeah, there's-
resolution about funding sources or aidability of the project.
Okay.
So I guess from that, if the board determines to proceed, there's nothing that needs to be done, except our attorney said we just needed to inform you of the options. If you decide to scrap the project or go out to bid again, we have resolutions prepared for that.
Nice.
Okay. So then, I guess is there any interest, maybe another way to do this with the exception of Trustee Williams, are there any opinions different with proceeding with the project than there was last week? Oh, and Trustee Jaros was also absent.
No, she was there.
She was
No,
here.
no, she was here. She was here.
Yes.
Sorry.
Everyone was here except Israel, yeah.
So is there anyone who has a different view based on this new information?
Like, I mean,
If not,
that is the question, right? The question, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Hamilton.
That's
It's, the question is, except for Israel, who was not here, for everyone else, if all the facts are the same, except it's 4 million unaidable instead of 1 million unaidable, which I understand is a net difference of approximately $2 million over 15 years, approximately. Difference in what portion of the 22 million the district would eventually actually bear. So the question for us, each of us individually, is to think about how we voted last week, I guess, and to say, if you knew that last week, would your vote have been different or not?
Well, I also think that I agree with you, and it's exactly right. The project's the same amount of money. However, last week, we were pretty much guaranteed that this was going to be okay to do, and now, 1 week later, actually 2 days later, the administration found out we couldn't proceed. So what's going to happen next week? I mean, I'm not blaming anyone here. I'm just saying we're dealing with the state, and you'd have no idea. So that's what makes me continue to feel.
If you decide to proceed, we're not dealing with the state. There's nothing, we have the funding.
Well, if you want to get technology work done and security work done, we're going to have to deal
But
with them eventually.
that would be entirely separate from this bond and from this project.
But we-
The SMART bond, when it gets funded, it will be its own project.
Yeah.
Right.
So we need to
Trustee
reimagine.
Williams,
So we need to reimagine that too.
It's not that the state told us we could
Have
not
them behind
proceed.
my
It wasn't
ears.
that's not the case at all. It's
They
just
won't
that
approve
the
it.
conditions under which we proceed are different. And like I said, I just felt uncomfortable with proceeding with awarding that bid with you not knowing that information.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So what we have an additional 180,000 for a course of 15 years if we go ahead, potentially.
Well, I think since the board,
180,000, sorry.
but that would be the total. I think since everyone else was here last week, they knew that there would be 45 to 50,000 anyway.
Right.
So the difference is about 130, 140,000 a year from what we knew last week.
Gotcha.
So, Madam President?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Trustee Williams, were you finished, sir?
Yeah, I'm finished, thank you.
Madam President, can I ask you to poll the board and see
Yes.
if there is anyone who, based on this information, would have voted differently last week?
Trustee Saunders, would you have voted differently?
Well, we have to do something, so I would go ahead and proceed.
Proceed. Trustee McGowan? Why did I put this?
I don't know. I don't know. This is tough. It was tough for me last time. What, the deadline is Friday to send these contracts, to sign these contracts?
Not to sign, but the architects are preparing the contracts anyway. We've just told them not to send them out. But Friday is our 45-day window, after which any contractor can say goodbye. And they have been calling because they have their work prepared.
Sure, nobody wants to, you don't want the offer
They
hanging
need to know
out
what
there
they're doing
forever.
this summer.
Yeah, they gotta line their work up. I don't know. I mean, just like I said last week, what's the alternative?
Right.
If we say no, then we lose a year regardless.
And probably more
Either,
money.
if we do Mandela later, we just do it later, and we have to pay for trailers for a year. Or we sell it. I mean, we went through that whole process with an appraisal and everything. We know how that would be. We went through the process of pricing out additions at other schools. And even if this Mandela project were 10 million more, it would still be the cheapest option, at least from the data we've been given, of the 4 options. I don't like it, and every time we think we nail it, to Darcy's good point, I mean, we keep nailing this down, and it just keeps going up every single time. This is the 4th time in a row that we thought we were moving forward with something.
The other thing too that I'd like to ask you to, all of you to consider as you ponder this question is something that in my mind you can't put a price tag on, and that's delivering what we said we would deliver to the community, and the fact that it was supported twice by the community. I think the integrity of the deliverable has to also consider that which you cannot put a price tag on.
So, Mr. McGowan, Trustee McGowan, I'm sorry.
I'm not ready to answer. I'm sorry. I don't know.
I'll come back.
Come back to me.
Trustee Patterson?
I think my abstention goes to a no.
Okay. Trustee Jaros?
I don't like it, but I feel there's no real other options.
Trustee, would you change your mind?
No.
So we have 1, 2. Trustee, oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Miller. I skipped right over you.
I oppose it.
Yeah.
And,
Oppose it. I oppose it more now.
and Trustee,
I don't even think it's going
what
to be.
you've heard tonight, Trustee,
I vote yes.
okay.
You know, I think it's something we need to work through, and I've seen larger numbers thrown at us, and, over a 15-year span, I think we can plan accordingly to make sure that this number is, optimally used. So I vote yes.
And Trustee McGowan?
Can I, it doesn't have to be right this minute, but can I request an executive session before we come to a resolution on this matter? I have some questions for council, not for public about this.
Counsel? And I vote yes to proceed with the project, so we'll,
Are you making a motion to exec?
let's have a
Well,
motion.
we
to-
can do it, is there any, I guess there's no other reason to do executive tonight, so I guess we could do it now.
Right.
Sure. I move for an executive session to discuss this matter with council.
Okay. May I have a second?
Second?
It's been moved.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
I say no, does that mean I don't have to go?
Nope.
Board stands adjourned to executive session.
We won't be long.
No, I won't.
Deprecating, crap.
Okay, we're still good. Oh, motion to,
A
see
motion.
here?
Motion to reconvene, public session.
Trustee McOwen made a motion.
Second.
Got him.
Trustee Patterson, all
Look
those
at
in
that,
favor?
I'm on the
to
board,
reconvene?
go me.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain, motion carries. The board returns to public session.
Sorry, can I ask one more question? Only because I was trying to figure out the numbers. When you say potentially $180,000 for the unaided $4 million, how does that work? Because $4 million over 15 years is 266 a year, not
We were-
180.
What's 72% of $4 million, or let's use 75%.
Okay.
So that would be 3 million unaided,
Uh-huh.
right, which would be 200,000 a year.
3 million, not 4 million.
200 times 15 is 30, 3
Uh-huh.
million.
Yes.
So that's the difference. That's what I thought we were dealing with.
200? I thought it was
The
180.
difference is the 3 million, we were always
I
going
know,
to pay
I'm just
28%
trying-
of it.
I get it. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to understand, because even 180 plus 40 is still not 266. I'm just trying to make sure that all of the information is there. That's all. Don't grimace at me. I didn't do anything
No,
wrong right now.
I'm trying to see what,
Make me
if I
nervous.
said something wrong, I'm trying to think of what I did.
I'm saying overall unaided is $4 million, right?
Yes,
So $4 million paid back for 100% we have to pay back of the $4 million over 15 years is $266,000 a year.
oh, but I was only thinking of what the aid would be, not what the cost would be.
Right. I just want to be
Okay.
clear that that it's $266 a year that we now need to come up with the budget every year for the next 15 years.
Yes.
No.
No?
What's now?
No.
No, they're saying, I think trustee Patterson is saying, what would be the amount of the debt service in terms of the principal
Correct.
for the 15 years?
Yes, that we have to pay back.
Right. So we have to pay $4 million back, divided by 15.
Correct, because on its face, if you have a dollar that's aidable, 73 cents is coming from the state.
Yes.
Am I incorrect on that?
That's correct.
Which would mean the differential we are paying.
Yes.
Great, understand that. So that means, and we have aided $13 million, unaided, again, 4 point something, give or take. Of the $18 million that we're discussing, that is aidable. Yes.
So,
Fantastic.
wait a minute,
Going-
it's $22 million, 18 of which is aidable.
Mm-hmm.
I know, but
Okay.
18, we just,
It's 72% of the 18 that's
72% of the
aidable,
18.
not the 100%
I'm
of the
not-
72.
I'm not touching that 18 with a 10-foot pole right now. I'm only addressing the 4 million that is not aidable at all.
Yes,
So that of that 4 million, it has to be paid over 15 years,
yes,
which as I'm just taking 4 million, dividing it by 15, and that's 266.
yes.
So that would mean that it's still $266,000 a year that is not currently in the budget that we need to figure out where that's going to come from.
Yes.
Thank you. Fantastic doing business with you.
okay.
And trustee McGowan.
For straw poll purposes, I mean, I don't like it. I think there's a lot of things I would rather do than the Mandela Project, which I've said before. Long-term, but I think they all cost a lot more. And even at $266,000 a year, that's the same price as like a trailer or 2 trailers per year. And I'd rather have the Mandela building. So if we were to rescind it, which I don't think we could do anyway, given the straw poll we're at, I would probably continue the course anyway if I'd had this information last week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, that concludes the superintendent's report, Madam President.
Thank you. Oh, President's report. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight on our April 29th meeting. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday, and those that are celebrating Passover, enjoy. Facebook Live, which was scheduled for April 25th, has now been moved to Tuesday, April 29th. Okay? And that ends my report.
That Facebook Live, how are we advertising that, just so I know?
It's been, cards have been sent out, it's on,
It's on
it's on, Facebook.
Facebook, on Instagram.
Your mic's not on.
It's
Right.
on the
Oh,
It's been, there was a district-wide mailing done at the beginning of April?
April.
April.
I think there's don't quote me on the time. There's a district-wide mailing. It's been on Facebook. It has been on Instagram. We're sending home flyers to students, and we'll make sure that the flyers get updated to reflect the new date, and they'll go home hopefully first thing Thursday morning.
Someone probably should be standing by and prepared to respond to anyone who might call in Thursday, because that date's been out there for a long time.
Yes, it has.
So someone needs to stand by and field the questions and say it's been rescheduled.
I'll be more than happy to do that, absolutely.
Thank you, Rick. Committee reports. Okay, Patterson didn't have you do have something? Great.
Well, I have something. So we are, there's a meeting, I believe, on Friday that's being held regarding Envision to see where we are with our project, so that we will go through, and we probably will not have another audit committee meeting until that project gets implemented.
Do you know how far along that is? No?
No, me, man.
Oh, no.
I don't know. Study. I don't know. I'm sorry.
You have anything to say, Trustee Jerose? Trustee Torres?
No, I don't have a report at this time.
Trustee Miller?
Yes, family and community engagement. Actually, I was thinking about this. There's a new group in town called BC and the Liaisons. Doesn't that sound good? Anyway, we had a meeting with Dr. BC and the parent liaisons. I think it's a great group. So I've been, I'm a little
Somebody who knows
zany.
Photoshop, get to work.
Anyway, I really like that idea. Anyway, we had a meeting last Friday morning. And two things. We confirmed September 8th for Beyond the Badge. We did, and that's all.
Wait, you mean
14.
June 8th. Did I say September?
September?
Oh, June 8th. I'm sorry, I'm conflating two events. And everything's pretty much in order. I would like to ask a couple of board members to please be available to help us on Saturday, June 8th. It's probably going to be from 9 until 2, something like that. If you could come for a few hours, that would be great. And then we were dealing with the issue that the liaisons had been dealing with their schools, where we initially said we could only limit this to a certain number of students per school because, A, it's a pilot, it's a test case, and we weren't sure how many police we could have and what the ratio would be, and would it be a meaningful interaction. And one of the things we thought about was repeating Beyond the Badge in the fall. So basically, Trustee Williams had said to me, I really love that mind, body, and soul thing. So we talked about that, and we said we could incorporate a next Beyond the Badge piece to mind, body, and soul. So we agreed to do mind, body, and soul, and BC and the liaisons has found a way that we can fund this and operate this, working with Just Inspire. It sounds like it's going to be much easier and much less expensive for the district. So we're planning on Saturday, September 14th. We've put that out there to the mayor. We've checked everything. We put a stake in the ground for that day, and that will be held at Traphagen. And we plan on making sure that we have really researched the parking situation, the traffic situation, so that people who live in that area are not too upset. And that's really it. We're going to be meeting on a regular basis on both events. But I think this summer will be pretty busy. So anyway, for September 14th, we would also like trustees who are willing to volunteer, but I will get you on that later. That's my report.
Can I just ask why Traphagen instead of the high school?
It's not available. The first
Oh,
three
right.
Saturdays are football.
Got it. Okay.
And Coach Semino's been incredibly flexible, but this year he could not be, so we are going to be doing it at Traphagen.
Got it. Okay.
How are the children being picked for the June 8th affair?
They were already picked last fall, and would you like BC and the liaisons, would you like to talk about how we did this? Or maybe the liaisons would like to talk about it. Come on, Rita.
And mind, body, and soul will be for any children?
That's everybody, just like it was in the past.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Is this on?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Each school actually used different methods to select. I know at Rebecca Turner, I partnered with the guidance counselor. She made recommendations of students. We spoke with some teachers. They made recommendations for students. And so those are some of the methods that we used to select the students for Beyond the Badge.
Okay.
Is there a certain age group that you?
It's elementary.
It's the elementary.
Grades or just all elementary?
No, it's all elementary. But it's a team building event, and I think that's why we asked the schools to identify students they thought would benefit most from participating in an event like this, and then we will be repeating it and opening it up to all students eventually.
And because we are partnered with the police department along with the resource officers.
School resource, yeah.
School resource officers, the principals pick their kids who will definitely benefit from having a relationship
Right.
with the school resource officers and with the police department. So that's why we picked that. And that leads us into September 14th because the kids were like, why not pick me? Why you pick him? Why you pick her? Why you pick
Right,
her?
right.
We decided that not everybody would come. The answer is going to be, okay, don't worry about it. You will be there September 14th. And September 14th is going to be high school.
No,
So we're gonna
Trapehagen,
get
Trapehagen.
That's a
June 8th.
traffic nightmare.
June 8th is at Holmes.
Nightmare.
September 14th is at Traphagen, and once again, I think I would ask that maybe the facilities crew, maybe Mr. Policio can help us, evaluate the traffic flow, and maybe we can do some shuttling from other areas, other parking lots to get students to Traphagen, but I don't know. But anyway, we just need to look at that and then post it early on and just say, look, this is part of your community, you're welcome to come.
What's any special ed children selected that
Yes.
you know of?
That I know of, yes.
Thank you.
Definitely, and
Dr. Gorman, can you, I need to sign out. Dr. Gorman, can you continue for me? Sure. All right, thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton.
good night. Yeah, so we did try a diverse population, so definitely inclusive at Rebecca Turner. Was concerned that some families may not want to participate, but we did assure them that there will be supervision there during the time. The parents are also available to come to assist the youth at the time. So, yeah, we have some scholars that were selected, some MBK students that were selected, and some students who would benefit from the partnership with the police department.
Thank you. I just want to give our parent liaisons a round of applause, because they are doing a fantastic job in our buildings. Trustee McOwen.
No report. One thing I'll mention, unfinished business, but no report.
Oh, okay. Trustee Williams.
Thank you. No committee report.
And Trustee Saunders.
The only report I have is the Special Education Advisory Council is meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock at Rebecca Turner.
Oh, Rebecca Turner?
Rebecca Turner tomorrow, and it's going to be celebration of differences. That's going to be on top.
That's great, great.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along.
No minutes.
No minutes? No accepted. Opportunities for board members to remove any items from the consent agenda. Can I just hold your thoughts? Because I did forget to have Mr. Policio go over the change orders that's on the agenda.
Thank you.
So like we started, good evening, everybody. Like we started last meeting, Michael Tribe from Peter Gisalfi will go over the change orders.
Good evening.
Evening.
There are 6 change orders in front of you today. The first one is AS 003 for the Thornton High School from McHugh Furnishings. And it's related to additional stock supply of seats, so that you would have these seats in the future, or if something needs to be repaired, you would have these. So that's the first change order. It was requested by the district. Second one is also from McHugh. It's AS004 for Thornton High School. And this has to do with the installation of the seats. It says the seating installer will furnish and install epoxy anchors for 1,631 seats at the lower level and the balcony level in the auditorium. There was some tests done of the concrete where the seats were supposed to be installed, and they didn't meet the strength that was required. So these epoxy anchors were added somewhere around $18 to $20 per seat. Next one, EC 038, also Thornton High School. This is for Talt Electric. And in the band room, we actually relocated a telephone data outlet. It was sitting behind the tiered seating in the band room, and we relocated so it could be used appropriately instead of staying stuck behind there. PC 025, also Thornton High School, from S&L Plumbing, Heating. Plumbing contractor to install piping for hot and cold water supplies and a waste line to restore services to the mop sink located in custodial closet 235. When they demolished the room below, they actually took out all the piping. And unfortunately, we didn't have any existing plumbing drawings to really indicate what was there. So in the demolition, it was removed, and they had to reinstall the piping to that mop sink. And then we have now at Pennington, GC 061. This is Pennington Addition. NIRAM is the contractor. And this has to do with rebuilding the elevator shaft, which is built with sheetrock, exposed to humidity. That sheetrock has to be removed and replaced.
Let me just expand a little bit on that, because I believe Trustee McOwen had some questions on that. So when we demolished the kitchen there, that left that elevator shaft exposed to the elements. And you had asked questions on how we're going to prevent it from happening again. It is now completely inside the building with the new construction, so it is dry. So humidity, it was exposed to humidity and weather outside. We did the best we could. The contractor did the best they could to cover it and to secure it, but you know, it was just outside for over a year. So that's where the mold spores grew.
I think Rosemary has a question. I mean,
Did they use that kind of sheetrock now that they put in bathrooms that has this sealant?
The building is completely enclosed, has a
So
roof,
it
the
doesn't
place is
need
dry,
anything?
so it doesn't need that. That would just add more cost. But they treated the whole area with fungicide. So they did a nice job.
Thank you.
So the last one is also for Pennington, GC 062, for NIRAM is the contractor. And this is to furnish additional pavers for the side entry flooring. This is, in a way, an omission on the architectural set of drawings. The actual plans show pavers. The finish schedule says reuse existing. This is an area that there wasn't pavers to reuse, so that was an omission from us, the architects.
any more questions?
Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you. Back to removing any items off the consent agenda. Micah, did you want that one about the recycling?
No,
You got
now
that
I had time to
information?
read it. I'm good. Yeah,
Okay,
I read
thank
through it.
Anyone else have any? No?
The 14.2, Rick, was that something that you were going to talk to us about?
Do you want me?
Yeah, was
Oh.
that something that you had to mention
Yes.
about the?
So contained on this evening's agenda is the BOCES administrative budget slated for board approval, as well as the election of 3 seats, 3 trustees to the Southern Westchester BOCES Board of Cooperative Educational Services. Previously, this group had nominated a person by the name of Geraldine Lorday to serve on the BOCES board. However, her nomination came in after the period of time for nominations had closed. So tonight you'll be voting on 3 trustees. However, I was informed by the BOCES board after we had submitted it that there is still a 4th vacancy available on the Southern Westchester BOCES board. And tomorrow morning, after we take the vote tonight, and that seat remains unfilled, which is what the BOCES folks are anticipating, BOCES will send out a request for nominations, at which time this board will be able to nominate whoever they like, including Jerry, via board resolution at the next board meeting to serve on the BOCES board for the duration of the unexpired term of, I believe his name was Bill Nowicki.
Okay? Okay. Call for a motion.
All right, get back up to the top.
Motion?
Oh, that's the, that's.
Sorry, hang on. Is these 14, 1 and 2, that's part of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Two is just, there are 3 people who have been
Voted on,
Fraser McDonald,
nominated.
Catherine Draper, and Robert Johnson to serve as trustees. They were nominated by other school districts. Serve as trustees for BOCES, representing other school districts.
And why do other school districts and BOCES have to vote on this? Remind us, Rick.
So BOCES serves as a cooperative educational institution for all school districts in the Southern Westchester BOCES and catchment. And their Board of Education serves much like ours does. Instead of being voted on by the general public, they're voted on by the member districts. So each district from BOCES can nominate 1 person to the board. However, there are not 14 seats on the board. Any district can nominate somebody, but not every district is represented. So these 3 people have been nominated by boards of education, including Ms. Lynn Fraser McBride, who, while she resides in Mount Vernon, was not nominated by the Mount Vernon Board of Education to serve on the BOCES board this time around. And by virtue of the fact that we did not nominate her, we are able to nominate somebody else at a later date because she is not serving in a capacity via your action.
Right.
I didn't follow that part at all, but
We agreed to that at the executive.
no, I remember talking about that, but
It's not a residency thing, it's a nomination thing.
Right.
It's limited to
are
1
these
person.
3 individuals on this resolution right now, are they contested?
No, there are 3, there are currently
So
4
there were a
vacancies.
total of 3 nominations from all districts total.
Correct, for 4 vacancies.
I understand. All right.
Highly enthusiastic people.
Approval.
I guess if there's anyone less enthused about voting than, even less enthused than the general public, it's us, I guess. Board members, that's crazy.
All right, a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Trustee McOwen,
Second.
trustee Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Unfinished business.
I had a question about, now that Dr. Hamilton's off, Dr. Gorman, you may not know the answer to this, but are we doing anything about a transportation study? We had talked about that a couple of meetings ago to work towards a transportation policy for the district, but we can't do that until we start with a study.
Right.
So I want to know where that stands.
Oh,
Good evening again.
Thanks, Mike.
So after that last meeting, Dr. Hamilton directed me to contact the state. So I contacted the state transportation department. I have 2 companies that do it for the state of New York. I am in contact with them. I will give you a comprehensive report on when they're going to come down, what it'll cost by the next meeting.
Great.
We'll have a meeting with them, and according to the state transportation, the head of the department, he said that the idea, and this is where I'm going to need some help probably from Dr. Hamilton, is to really hone in on what we're looking to get out of
Right.
this.
Right,
And
right.
that is the most important thing. So I'll be working with Dr. Hamilton in the coming days and weeks until we get this proposed.
Okay. It might be helpful, and this is a decision for Dr. Hamilton, to form a kind of an ad hoc committee of a few of us, if he wants to. I'm just putting that out there to get a little bit more guidance on how and I'm happy to serve in that capacity, just to make sure that we get the study
That we look.
crafted in the most helpful way to us, so we spend these dollars once and spend them wisely.
And that's what they were very, very pointed on that you need to just be very specific on what you're looking to get out of this, and we'll supply it for you.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one other thing, and that is, where are we on selecting a next retreat? Because we agreed that we really need to start working on our strategic plan. So where are we? Have you discussed any dates at all with the superintendent?
No,
Not yet?
Not, and we had looked at,
We reached out for some dates of availability for the end of May, June timeframe. And we're just waiting. She was on vacation. She was supposed to come back today.
For the facilitator, you mean?
Correct. Yep.
We had a retreat at the
Bronxville
Field Club.
Field
Field
Club,
Club.
and we didn't have a facilitator. I personally thought that was a good retreat, just to.
Yeah, I'm not sure we need a facilitator for
Yeah, I
this
just
one.
think we need to poll the members of the trustees to see what dates are absolutely NG, and then maybe we can start making a plan, a tentative date. And also with, I guess, Dr. Hamilton, we need to know his schedule as well.
I will speak with Dr. Hamilton and we'll get some dates going.
Yeah.
So we know we don't want a facilitator.
I mean, I think she's fantastic, but I don't think we need her.
Right. She costs a lot of money.
Yeah, and we don't need to spend the money.
Okay.
Madam President, also
Yes.
our communication with the schools, kind of refining, some type of framework for that. We were assigned to the to
Yeah,
schools.
right.
We want to know,
Yep.
so we're kind of going at it the same way and preparing for the next school year.
You can talk about it. But mainly you go in, I mean, if you're going in for anything, you should always call the superintendent
Right.
to get permission. But you go in there, you walk around, you might speak to a couple of kids. I sit in on classroom, just to be, not to,
All right, so
doing
there's no,
anything.
all right, so there's no really formal
no,
structures, just kind
I've
of
read
just
books,
be
I've
available.
called me in to come and read a book or two, there's certain classes. So reach out to the principal of your buildings and let them know that you're available and you want to come in on a certain day or something.
Or just let them know we're available, him or her, and we're accessible, and we can,
Right, I
form a
go to
relationship or
mostly
whatever.
all their programs, their Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever they have. So I sit in on different things like that.
sure, okay.
Okay? Yes.
Mr. Silver, when are we going to have the bids open for the
Talking
lunch?
to your mic, please.
The food service bids?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Talking to your mic.
The bids have been completed, and tomorrow, the purchasing agent will be advertising the bids, and I think we're giving them till May 7th or May 8th, something like that, which will allow 6 to 7 weeks to gear up, since we have this year included the summer lunch program in the bid. So the contractor will be responsible for that as well.
Well, yeah, because the Health and Wellness Committee would like to be
Right, so
involved.
the Health and Wellness Committee will be involved. We are going to be, when the bids come back, we are going to be scheduling the Health and Wellness Committee as well as some of the kids
Right.
to do a food test or
We're gonna do-
sample menu, a sample food thing. They'll have a cart or whatever and set it up and feed whoever is in that, on that committee, and that will be part of the basis of our award. You may remember that 5 years ago, those of you that were here, we did not take the low bidder, we took the high bidder. Because everybody in front of the high bidder had been companies that we had removed our obligation
And I
to.
believe we've used every,
So there may be one or two that we haven't used, and we will be advertising this pretty widely through the
and
state
that'll be
network.
You said May 6th?
Something like that, could be a little bit later than that.
No.
Did-
But we will be notified.
Yes.
You,
It's coming.
you count on that.
Can I ask a question too about that? Is the bid, to the point about Health and Wellness Committee, is there any part of the bid package that's being requested to involve gardening or involve student-grown food or programs in the district that can be used to supplement the food? Is there any aspect of what you're asking contractors to bid in that would involve, that would?
It is not too late to add that if you have some specific thoughts. What is in there is catering is in there, so that we don't have to use outside vendors and do bidding, and There's also something in there having to do with styrofoam, plastic, straws. They will be required to use recyclable or cardboard and paper straws and things like that. So we're trying to do the best we can for the environment, but there's nothing in there having to do with that. We tried to do an initiative with that a couple of months ago, and we got nowhere with it.
Is it too late to put something?
And we tried doing gardening and beekeeping at the same time. That's it.
Liability.
Excuse, while you're there, Mike, Mr. Policio, are we still doing Grams, boxes? Have we taken care of those boxes? And because we can go into the principals to find out who's going to be in charge of them, so that we can have a garden club like
Yes,
we did
so,
before.
thank you, Madam President. So we are in the midst of going out to bid now. I don't know the return date. It was in my confidential, both transportation and landscaping. So as soon as we can secure that, that bid, we are going to do the initial, and then we're going to, at some point, with the help of Mr. Goodsight and the school, we will then turn it over to the school.
Right.
We will do the maintenance around the boxes, but the actual sustainable growth that's going to happen in the boxes will be the school. They can utilize my department for anything that we have to order or materials, but the actual work, and of course, my grounds crew will assist in any way we can, but that will be their project to decide what goes in there and the curriculum behind it.
Maybe a liaison from Graham can talk with the principal and see who's going to be in charge, because who was in charge was Janet McKenna, and she retired.
Yeah.
So we need a new person that's going to be in charge of that garden. Okay, thank you.
FYI, a few meetings ago, we had the presentation about the food desert at Mount Vernon and the options, and we got into a little bit, and from there, I did a little research on, trying to find if there are any collaborations with juice bars, who, naturally juice fruit and, pack those nutritions in, and with the school districts. And I did locate a proposal from a juice bar who proposed to a district that they would supply a pop-up juice bar station to the school with a full menu and with full, just information about, just natural juices and things like that. And also, they would train a student to man it. So it was just really good information. They were nowhere really close, but it was good to find, because I think we're just a little bit closer with just offering,
Maybe that can be part of the culinary arts.
possibly, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They should be able to
Bring
do
that in.
pop-ups.
That would be
They
awesome.
should, they would be able to do pop-up juices. That's
So
great.
we'll bring that to the Health and Wellness Committee, and hopefully we
Great.
can, get some steam with that.
Okay, any more good suggestions or anything going on? New business? That was new business?
That's a lot of pressure when you ask for good suggestions, because I don't know how many of them are good, but, so a few things. One, I've been to the food pantry for the last 3 months, and it's been really fantastic, and I would suggest that actually, I think all the administration and probably the board too should really be visiting at least once in the year, because I think it's very, it makes this conversation about raising taxes and the kids that are in our community and what they're focused on, and I think it makes it very real in terms of what some of the folks and going back to the food desert, conversation, I really think it really hits home what a lot of people in our district are facing. And I think that, again, I think everybody should. I dragged my son out. It was actually very fun. Also, by the way, very educational. He had to put 6 oranges in a bag, and that was fantastic. So we did 2 at a time. It was great. But he was so excited to having fed all these people, and it really did make a difference. And I would, again, I think that everybody should go at least once. 2 is we've discussed night school, having a night program. I don't know where we are with that. If we are with that, I don't know if the soup has to be here, but.
Well, we talked about, we may get some funding if, I think, what did you call her, BC and the liaison? if we can get some, so anyway, we just have to get the curriculum done.
Yeah, so
I think the superintendent is working on something of that sort, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff?
Well,
Yeah,
I
that was
know-
more of a confirmation.
I think that we talked about a, what did they call, it? Not night school, that was what?
Sundown.
Sundown program.
And then it was the night school.
And an adult ed.
And adult.
Adult ed, yeah.
Yes. So all those are being tossed around and.
I kind of like the adult ed, so we can have that conversation.
Well, the adult
separately.
ed is different from the night school because
Correct.
we're
Right.
Correct. No, but that's why I'm asking just where we are. I just want to make sure it's kind of on everyone's radar.
It's still on our
'Cause
radar.
Just checking, because
Yes.
if I don't hear anything, I've decided I'm going to be nosy and ask. And then one more question. Do we have any multilingual classes? Because I was asked that by people in the community, and I don't know.
Can you clarify what you mean by multilingual?
So there are classes in, I believe, Nursing and Yonkers that were in the elementary schools. The class is given in both English and Spanish, or English and another language. Multilingual. Anybody? Somebody?
Jeff?
No.
Dr. Walden, can you come up and address that?
Good evening. We have a transitional bilingual program at two of our schools at Columbus School and Hamilton. What that looks like is providing, according to Part 154, an opportunity for students that are the same grade level and that have the at least 20 students that native language or L1 home language is in both of those cases Spanish. They receive home language arts. They receive supports in translated materials. So in that sense, from kindergarten all the way up, we're providing a continuity of instruction so that students actually have a gradual release type of model, so that they can acquire strong English language acquisition.
But that class has the purpose of transitioning them to full English. I guess my question is making sure our students are bilingual, or if we have anything like that.
I see. So in that sense, we do have exposure to other world languages. So Spanish, predominantly across the district. And then we also are actually piloting French in performing visual arts Thornton campus. So if you're looking at the models in terms of another school district that may have a large number of English language learners, we have a different type of model here, but we do expose students to an additional language, all of our students.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I just have just mention an observation? We were at a forum last week, 2 weeks ago, and there was some mention of people calling the district and they don't answer the phone. So I just want the administration to make sure that the staff is answering their phones in certain departments. Just
I received a call this morning about not, people not answering the phones when they're calling.
Been hearing that for 6 years.
well, I just figured I'd mention it.
Bring it back up.
Yeah, it's still an
'cause
issue.
We have
It's
to,
still an
it's a
issue.
big issue, issue.
Do we have like a drop comment box anywhere where if they can't, they can, I mean, obviously we have emails. Is there maybe something they can kind of leave a message?
I don't know if we want them to comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
We want to hear from them, but if somebody has a question that they need
to speak to someone.
answer for right then,
Need to speak to someone.
they want to talk to a person.
I get it. I'm one of those parents, like,
Yeah.
so you get frustrated kind of.
This is an important thing, though. I mean, originally, one of the concepts I think a lot of us talked about for the parent liaisons was to become the point of contact, right? And y'all are supposed to be the ones who have all the answers, which I know puts a lot of pressure on you. But if you don't know the answer, you're supposed to be the person who knows how to find out the answer to a question. So do we have any sense, and this can be maybe a report that comes back to us at a future meeting, do we have any sense from the parent liaisons that all the schools, like, is that actually working? Do parents actually, if they have a question, do they call you or do they not? Do they call somebody else? Do they call in the principal's office? Are they calling their teacher? Is the system working? Because I thought one of the goals of the parent liaisons was to kind of be a little bit more systematic in how we communicate and have there be a point person for each school that even if they don't have the answer, at least they know how to point a parent in the right direction to know who to talk to. So is that system working? Is it working really great at some schools and not so well at others? And if so, why? Is anybody paying attention? BC, are you paying attention to the chain of communication, and is this flow actually working or not?
It is working because Minister Perry.
Please speak into the microphone.
Micah, before Dr. BC,
Yeah.
most people are calling the Board of Education.
Yeah.
They know to call the parents. These young ladies are out in front.
Oh, I know. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. It's
So-
fantastic.
But it's the people that they call here.
Right. So is there a way for people who call here, do they get directed to the parent liaisons?
Well, nobody answered the phone to direct them to the parent liaison. But
Oh,
what
well,
I'm
that's the
saying,
pro-
but what I'm saying though, what I'm saying, they go to the
Okay.
parent liaison come to me or whosoever, which department, they get the answers and then bring it back to them.
Right.
Then again, you have some very angry parent who's not going to wait to call the parent liaison to ask them the question. They
come
call
straight.
directly here.
That's right.
There are many times my department is flooded with questions that doesn't have anything to concerns me, but at the same time I get the answers for them and give it to them.
Right.
And we also have to understand that when they're on the phone, and people need to take this into consideration, that a secretary could be on the phone and somebody called, but because she's talking to somebody else, she can't pick up the phone at the same time to talk to the parent, and some of them get very frustrated and leave messages, and I'm not sure if we are getting back to them on time, but that happens sometimes, and they explain to me. But I know downstairs have been working a lot better since Dr. Campbell left. I mean, it was working there before, and then since she left, I put a parent liaison downstairs to work with Ms. McAtee Bromley, and there are a lot of questions being answered, and I mean, I haven't heard any complaint up to this point in time.
Phones roll over, like if someone's on the phone and it rings 3 times, does it roll over to the next desk? Is that how it works, or it just rings? How
It doesn't go up to the next desk, but the next person, because all their numbers are linked. How I have it in my department is all their numbers are linked. So if you're on the phone and the phone is still ringing, somebody pick it up because all the numbers are linked, so everybody get the call at the same time.
Well, just be,
Didn't work off.
you know.
And the other point, just to mention, going off the complaining, that I've heard the complaints from a lot of potential parents that can't reach anybody, don't know when registration is. The website, I'm going to be honest with you, I had a potential parent reach out to me, and I couldn't reach anybody to find the information. I went trolling the website. Eventually, I found it, but I couldn't find I found the registration packet, but I couldn't find where the registration dates were for pre-K. And I had to go and, because people think, we got juice. I clearly had no juice that day.
All right.
So
So
now I gotta
again,
go.
then we have to
We've always
address
got
how we
choose
can
most.
make the website more parent-friendly.
I'm juiceless.
That's another situation we have to address.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Denise, you wanted to add something?
I think it would be helpful for the board members to also know that the programming of the phones is not unique. Actually, it is unique to the specific department. So, for example, we get a lot of phone calls all day long, like Dr. BC's department, for other departments. Our department is programmed, not our main number. You cannot leave a message. You have to talk to a human being. So that's how we end up with a lot of phone calls from everywhere else, because you can't leave a voicemail message unless it's for a specific person in the department. The main number does not have voicemail. So people will keep hitting 0 until it bounces and bounces and bounces and ultimately ends up in our department. And 3/4 of the phone calls that we get are not for human resources. They're around student matters, like Trustee Patterson
Yeah, I think-
just mentioned.
I think people
But
just want to
we
speak
could,
to
we,
someone.
we've looked at this in the past, and we can revisit how the phones are programmed in order to facilitate better communication. But we have the same issue with phone calls will come to us, because if they're not answered somewhere else, if a person keeps hitting 0, it'll just keep bouncing from department to department. The programming, I think, needs to be relooked at.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay. Any other new business? No, go on.
Oh, I wanted a motion. I'm sorry. I was all excited.
Oh, any other new business? Hearing none?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Trustee Patterson? Trustee Williams, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? I'm gonna record that.
You want to stay?
Stay to 10 o'clock.